I'm going to, it is just my nature, so I'm going to try to take the energy level up about 10,000 fold here right now. I'm known for also walking around, in part because I am a Las Vegan. You have in front of you an actual innovator of many different companies, of businesses, of business models, and one of the more significant actually two of the more significant ones I did were right here in this fine city. I'm a still part-time resident, and would love to share with you a little bit around some thoughts around sort of extreme innovation here and how it applies to healthcare, which is the area that I've chosen to take on lately. Now, I will tell you in the spirit of, oops, that's probably a good example, in the best laid plans, I came out yesterday to meet with a number of different customers and potential customers and the like, and in coming through the airport, a gentleman in front of me seemed to set off the metal detector at the TSA. I'm TSA Pre, which is another great innovation, by the way. And in the course of that, we're standing around, myself and a few of my colleagues at Orange County, and sure enough, he seems to thought it was wise to check a gun in through TSA Pre. So I'm, of course, looking at that watch and hoping I'm going to make that plane, and ultimately did. But as I got here, I realized I had no power adapter for my laptop. So a few of these slides may actually act a little funny because we had to literally wait to get a power adapter this morning as we kind of got started here. So let me just introduce you a little bit. I'm going to talk about CarePoint, but more about kind of what we're trying to do in evolving and taking some lessons learned from a variety of different other industries and applying them into healthcare to make healthcare a bit more rewarding and engaging for all is the goal. There's three simple premises I'll come back to a couple times here around the idea of living well. Many of us think about healthcare as sick care. I think the industry of healthcare has sort of taken itself to that for a variety of different reasons. It's also one of the more challenging experiences as a consumer. So I have a long history in business development and technology and a variety of other things, but most importantly, I think a lot about consumer experiences and how does that impact business outcomes. And the healthcare system, although I've now had a chance to experience it myself, more perhaps often than I would like, is not the most rewarding of experiences. It's complicated, it's difficult, it's increasingly expensive, it's very uncoordinated, and it's increasingly getting kind of chronically so. So kind of what we've gone after is to solve that from the consumer's perspective first, but to do that in this, and arguably any industry, it's kind of a heavy lifting effort because you have to work around a variety of different parts of the ecosystem to do that. So I'll share a little bit about that and how we kind of share the care in the course of it. But let's start first with the city of extreme innovation. So how many of you had a chance to experience a little dose of Las Vegas last night, at least walk around the property here, perhaps see those shiny, blinky, noisy different devices and the like, right? And hopefully none of you are feeling like those guys at the bottom of that. Now that is one form of healthcare that's become known for Las Vegas, is the sort of morning after or evening of. But in the city of innovation, even healthcare adapts to fit this need. Mobile, portable healthcare that with an app will come to you. It will actually rehydrate you. There's a variety of different products and services they do. We actually have a few of our customers and clients that on CarePoint work in this way. So the beauty of innovation is it will adapt and apply itself, if allowed, to fit the circumstances or ultimately to the consumer need in any market. I am actually not a complete native of Las Vegas. I was born in Lake Tahoe, but when I was but a child, this is what Las Vegas looked like. And where we're standing here today is what was the MGM Grand originally. Well, it was actually just a piece of desert like most of Las Vegas. But it was originally the MGM Grand. It went through a fire, a bit of a transformation for those of you who may or may not remember. And today when you look at the Strip, it's quite a transformational process. Now, how did the Strip transform for many years? There was a tremendous amount of building, of course, over 20, 30, 40 years. Many movies have been made about that. But the traditional model over the last 10 to 20 has been to blow things up and to start from scratch. Now, some might argue that that's what we should do with our healthcare system. There's certainly political and economic and other camps that might argue that. But the reality is, and even in Las Vegas, it's shifted and transformed quite a bit. It's now a set of innovations and transformation that takes what's there and makes it better, often using a variety of different approaches. Redesign, technology, how to apply new and different consumer experiences. The whole experience here in Las Vegas has evolved significantly from one predominantly driven by gaming to now entertainment, food, beverage, a variety of other different types of activities around it. And I think that's the approach that one has to take with healthcare. It's not easy to completely throw out anything or start from scratch and disrupt it, but to take best practices from a variety of other places and industries and apply them here. That's what I think we've tried to do. One of those techniques that is powerful in almost any business and any industry is the concept around carrots and sticks, or rewards and returns. Motivation. There's different motivations for different people. It's a highly personalized thing, but there are norms that have evolved over some period of time. When you were a child in school, you wanted to get, or perhaps your parents wanted you to get, good grades, right? Later on, if you happen to be in a work environment, you were seeking some accomplishment or some outcomes or some fulfillment or some promotion, perhaps for economic reasons or others. And in our personal lives, we seek perhaps love, a family, some sort of fulfillment, a cool place that we want to live or ultimately retire and the like. So it's quite natural in human behavior and in consumers to seek some form of a rewarding activity for a set of things that you participate in. Now, I've been involved in building and developing CRM and interactive stuff and space and technology for travel industry and hotels and financial services and stuff for many, many years. I looked high and low, and I could not find anything terribly rewarding in healthcare, sadly, with the exception, of course, of my health. Now, there is not many, if any, built-out systems or capabilities that encourage me to be healthier and to actually reap the rewards of doing that. Most of the system is designed around the opposite, which is, I said, largely sick care. But if we look at most of the other industries and things that we've begun to take advantage of, how many of you love Amazon Prime, right? I believe a previous speaker talked about retail sort of disrupted itself, and I believe that's exactly right. It became increasingly stagnant and labored with tons of cost and bricks and mortars and the like. The rewards program was a radical innovation that Amazon did because they actually went to solve a problem, and most people forget about this. What was the problem most of us had with Amazon in the early days? You had a fear of not being able to take it back. That was the good thing about going and retail shopping. There's the pleasure that we get from sort of walking around and shopping and finding stuff. But in the Amazon world, you could do it as more instantaneous, but you really had this fear about returning stuff. The fact that you could get it very quickly, theoretically for free, it's charged a bit more, and the return policy associated with Amazon Prime turned out to be a huge game changer. That is, in fact, a rewards program, a loyalty program of sorts that they've built, and it's been extremely effective. And you pay for it, believe it or not. So among many other different examples, the rewards industry and the tools and the capabilities around it are actually quite significant across all these others. It's a $100 billion plus industry that exists in travel, financial services, whatever, and many of these involve a thing of ephemeral currency, not Bitcoin, by the way, not crazy stuff that's going up and down and all over, but rewards and incentives and the like. So that is a market that does not or has not historically existed in healthcare. Now, in the commercial world, and healthcare is not a purely commercial entity, and I will be the first to admit this, but there is an increasing trend towards much more commercial and retail-oriented healthcare, as we talked about with the mobile types of activities on the first slide and the like. But rewards and loyalty programs and all kind of variants of CRM around it have proven time and again to drive human consumer behavior, to make you loyal to a particular credit card that you're likely to pull out of your wallet, or to an airline? How many of you chose the airline if you flew here for that reason? You had privilege or you were trying to maintain it. For me at Southwest, I get a companion pass. My daughter can fly for free with me the rest of the year, so I work pretty hard to get that, right? That's valuable in a trend, and I'll go through sometimes conniptions when I have to go cross country to fly Southwest, even though it might be a little better, certainly a first class option or something else if I chose a different option. On and on across a number of different industries is the case. The outcomes are clear. Consumers, not all, but many will respond. And it's often not even conscious. It's sometimes over a period of time, you just naturally think that way. How many Marriott fans in here? If you pick your hotel, you're gonna be a Marriott, right? If I said, gosh, go stay at a Hyatt, would you do it? Bingo. Exactly. It's really pretty innate in terms of how this begins to work. Now, again, in my own experience, I came to Las Vegas originally and started an airline. We built the first rewards program that actually rewarded you for how much you spent and what you did with the airline, not how many miles you flew. So the person sitting next to you might be earning a ton more based on that last minute purchase and the things that many of us business travelers do, as opposed to my grandma or my mom who bought it way in advance and paid the cheapest fare possible, got the same amount of miles. In Caesars, where I was for a number of years, I started there when there were mere 10 properties and a lot less revenue. We grew that to the largest gaming and entertainment company in the world, about 55 properties in a dozen countries, acquired a ton of different ones and all integrated them in using a set of these technologies and capabilities, and it made the value of the company significantly higher, and we outperformed all of our competitors. Many of them, of course, then became along, and now it's become a norm again in this industry for a hotel, for a casino, whatever. So the blinky lights may attract you, but the reality is in the gaming industry, like everywhere else, there's not much differentiation between the properties. They can't do a whole lot with the gaming product. They can make the buildings a little prettier or whatever. They can try to make the customer experience a bit better, but a lot of them is driven around these CRM and loyalty programs behind the scene, and that's what drives preference around where you'll visit and where you'll stay and when and how often and the like. So after many years of doing that and being in Salesforce and venture capital world and a number of other things, I got to thinking a bit about my first love, and my passion has been healthcare for a long time. I went to grad school for it and invested and worked in a number of companies, but I thought what is really needed here is probably an evolutionary dose of innovation. Anybody know what the upper left picture is, if you can see it? It was the world's state-of-the-art aircraft. I'm an ex-Air Force guy and worked in airlines, so I have to put an airplane picture up there. Any ideas? The Concorde. Does that look complicated? How'd you like to try to fly that? You know what the right is? It's a new Honda jet. With some collaboration by Tesla and other folks who've actually looked at how to make it simple to fly for arguably just about anybody. Now, I would not, but the idea is with a set of tools and capabilities, you can make that experience quite seamless and hit the easy button. Voice-activated controls, all kinds of stuff like that we're increasingly taking for common. So with a dose of technology, redesign, innovative thinking, you can take something that's been done now for 100+ years, flying, and reinvent it in a way. Bring the cost significantly down. The Honda jet is a few $1,000,000 versus a traditional private jet, and obviously a Concorde was hundreds of millions of dollars. And so you can actually innovate in some very interesting ways. So I think in the healthcare world, that's actually our opportunity and challenge, is to look at things that we know work that can perhaps be worked in and around, in part, the edges, but also to solve it a little bit from the consumer's perspective, but as well try to actually adapt and accommodate the existing environment ecosystem. So in the healthcare world, as I got more familiar with it, there are three classic Ps, right? Payers, providers, and who comes last? Patients. So everyone's actually not a patient. Kind of funny if you think about it. I actually think of them as consumers, or a better P might be people. People actually have all different kinds of needs, different strokes for many of these different folks, right? My mom, who's 72, is probably pretty typical. 3 or more chronic conditions, age not being one of them. We all suffer from that. My daughter is actually quite a different deal. Hates needles, more likely to be the millennial group. She'd avoid a doctor always if she could, but if it's online or a YouTube video or a telepresence or telehealth kind of experience, she'd take that any day, as will many of my employees and coworkers and the like. So that's a set of evolutions that I think are pretty interesting to look at and track and figure out how do we actually adapt that and help drive this shift towards digital health, but not just focus on the millennials or the next generation. How does that actually apply to my mom? How does it actually apply to me? I hate having to leave work, driving for an hour, sitting in traffic, and then ultimately in an office with sick people for 5 minutes with a doctor. That's an insane experience. It really is bad. I'd much rather do that in a chat bot, telling me what kind of conditions I have, some history of that, and going, yep, I need to look at that thing again, or this is new, or here's some stuff. And I can do it by text, by the way. That's how I communicate. We're working with several companies that do exactly that, and that is, I think, the shift forward. Now, how do you get people to do that? Does anybody know the adoption rate of telehealth, which has been around for coming on about 10 years, let's say, in some form? Any corporate wellness programs offer it? Any of your insurance providers, your payers offer it? Do you use it? Nope. Nope, 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 nope. 5 to 7%. Why? Perhaps. No, perhaps. That for you, that might be what you would desire. For me, that's not really what I'm looking for. Well, there's 100 different ways that I would probably go about that, but agreed. But that would be one of the ways that I would ultimately do that. Now, again, so here's the interesting history. When I first started the airline, at the time, the internet was this thing. I was kind of thinking it might stick. I wasn't sure it might take off. I think it still got potential. People used travel agents. You called them or you went to them. You guys remember that? The olden days? Pretty cool, huh? Took a long time, very elaborate sort of process. Online booking was kind of out there, but nobody, again, did it. What's one of the things that we did to help encourage you to do online booking? We rewarded you for that activity. You got more points for that, and you increasingly got penalized, or now today you even get charged if you can make a phone call at all to talk to somebody at an airline, right? Carrot and stick. So that set of shifting of behaviors is one of the things that we actually work on to say, how would we actually drive some greater adoption? How many people go to a patient portal? Did you know your provider group is actually encouraged, and in some ways their compensation or their HCAP scores and other things are dependent upon that? Again, worse than the 5 to 7% of health. I mean, they're awful to log into and crazy, but if you want to actually drive that sort of behavior, more usage, they'll get better over time, just like all the online booking did and everything else, right? So those are sets of activities that I think are really important to do. I'm going to kind of skip quickly through here because I think you guys know this, and you can use whatever words you like on the first one. The healthcare system is awesome. It's opportunistic. It's challenging. It's whatever. But one thing I can say for sure is it's changing. And in the midst of change is exactly the time when innovation has a chance to move forward. I am getting calls, requests for what we're doing today that is blowing me away. 2 years ago, people were like, I don't even think you can do that. Can you in healthcare? There's Stark laws, there's all kind of weird stuff like that you can't do. The reality is there's a variety of things you can do. Every industry I've ever been, there's all these sort of boogeymen or other things out there that you say you can't do, but there's a variety of different ways to tackle problems, do them incrementally, and sometimes take a big leap. Consumerized experiences, aligning and engaging the stakeholders, solving business problems that aren't just monolithic. I am a provider, I am a payer. I'm very focused on what the outcomes I want for me or my company or my business. That's typical. Having to think a little bit more holistically about that is challenging. We're, again, trying to do our job in helping do that. So we know that a big part of the problem is, the healthcare ecosystem and the cost and the chronic nature of it, and the fact that we, are largely encouraging and paying for mostly a sick care as opposed to a preventive care. There's a lot of data out there that says probably 50% of the ailments that we have are, if not self-induced, could be significantly mitigated with behavior change. Eat, exercise, sleep, medication, a variety of these things can help manage stuff. Increasingly, we also get genomic data and other information and little devices like trackers that actually tell us what we're doing, and we have more data about ourselves that we can actually use to help plan and look at that, just like we would look at the speedometer or the blinky light on our car that tells us it's time to change the oil, or a variety of other things. So we now have more information and insight around us that we can start to drive some of these proactive things if we use it, and we have different channels that we can take. Telehealth, we can get a second opinion. There's lots of data out there around different treatments. The genomic stuff's telling us certain things are gonna probably work better for us versus others. The piece that's really interesting is we all talk about how awful the GDP impact and everything else is of our healthcare system. At a personal level, travel, which I've done a ton of, retail, a ton of, we spend, most of us, more on those things, less on those things than we do on healthcare. And again, we get very little reward and we have significant pain and suffering. There's no TSA pre for my healthcare experience. I'm not getting rewarded for the amount, the average American spending $10,000 a year, 10,000. Average income in the US is 68 to 72,000. That's not trivial. When you add in all the wellness or other activities, food, spas, gyms, other things like that, it's actually significant. For many people, it's 10 to 15 to even 20% of income. Nothing back from that. No return, no reward, no points, no nothing. So we think there's a big opportunity, and that's a behavior changer for people, just as we've talked about. It changes your hotel behavior, it changes your airline behavior, changes which credit card you pull out of your wallet. That's what CarePoint does. So I'm not here to kind of make a sales pitch or anything else, but let me tell you, in the fact of about 18 months from start to go, we've gone from 0 to now 15,000. We should be 25,000 members signing up for a free rewards account. You now can communicate or engage with 400 different folks in our community, online, telehealth, reward redemptions, healthy food, doctors, dentists, lab tests, you name it. And we've got a portable program that allows you to earn with a variety of different partners and redeem with them, but also move that around the system. So it actually, including what we call Share the Care. One of the features I built some years ago for JetBlue was something around sharing or points pooling. This allows you to share your points and your information with your family members. So for my daughter, I am actually, like most males, not the greatest at doing certain things as it relates to my health. But if I know it's actually going to benefit her or my mom, I am actually more likely to do it, and I will pass the points to them to help them out. So that's one of the many features that we've implemented and developed there. So that's a little bit about CarePoint. I'll kind of scoot through a tail end here, just give you guys a taste of sort of what it is, and happy to take questions. You can try it out for yourself. But it is a first health-focused rewards program, platform, and network. Why all that stuff? Because as I said, doing innovation in an industry, sometimes you have to work on several edges at the same time. So by having a big software platform that we've developed that does that, having a series of programs around care plans and care approaches and a portable points environment, a number of different partners in there that helps us kind of engage that, helps drive healthcare outcomes. Now, there is a huge growing market for something called wellness. I'm pretty sure you guys all know that. If the US healthcare system is $3.5 trillion today, the US wellness system is about $1 trillion and is growing even disproportionately faster than the costs that we all know are happening in healthcare. These are the people choosing healthy food, activities, Fitbits, gyms, spas, genomic testing, and the like. So that area, again, around helping get self-diagnostics and other information to help steer your outcomes is a big growing area, and it helps us. I think if the video works here, it may or may not, given my deal, this will give you guys a little insight. If there's volume, then I don't have to talk.
Unless we're living under a rock star, the healthcare is not getting inexpensive in comparison to other places.
Wasn't planned to have music, but that's kind of cool. Sounds like we get laptop music, but not talkie music. So basically what you can see here is the early version of CarePoint. We're just doing a big re-release right now, and the user experience and everything changes and adding a whole lots of new features, but there are literally lots and lots of different partners in there that you can actually earn and or redeem with. You can book appointments, you can have a variety of experiences, and increasingly you can share the care. We also have a big philanthropic part. When I started the company, being a prior Salesforce guy where we had a 1-1-1 model, for activities like ordering the new Fitbit Versa, you actually get CarePoints for that activity. So you're actually earning points from a variety of things you're probably doing today, including Amazon. So I brought up Amazon. When we launched the Amazon piece of the platform and the product, I built it in such a way that it doesn't reward you for those Amazon points. All the other partners that we have do. It actually goes into a pool that we use to give to charitable causes. It's one of our highest frequent activities, and it's also what people like to do, but it actually creates that, and you can actually use that for your own organization. So we have a number of hospital groups and others and charity functions, and back to my sort of gaming thing, I was quite excited that Children's Hospital of Orange County has even decided to do poker tournaments now, of all things, to blend two crazy worlds together. But these are the kinds of activities you can actually also encourage your donors and others to do with these activities, pool them in there, and actually provide them for charitable or other purposes. So with that, I'll kind of, there's not a lot of good timing up here. I think we're probably about close. If you want me to go a little bit farther, I'm happy to. Okay, sure. We'll go into a ton of the company stuff, but a little bit of the growth path. We actually just started really adding members in October, November. I had 1,000 folks that we encouraged through hymns and a variety of other things to sign up on New Year's. As I said, we'll close out with about 25,000 here in another month, and we expect to be at about 250,000 members, probably more by the end of the year. And our goal is to probably be able to accommodate, I'll say 2 to 3% of the U.S. population, which would take us to about 6 million to 10 million over the next couple of years, and ultimately a few thousand different partners and providers. We're now beginning to move into employer markets. So your employer will actually encourage and incent you for a variety of different activities. Get your annual BMI, health test done, join the gym and actually go. Do a walk with your coworkers, get some sleep. These are actually behaviors that employers are increasingly doing because it affects their cost and your productivity. Do telehealth visits, that'll be a big driver for that, and on and on. So kind of skip past that, a little peekaboo of very early stuff about how the product works. You can all sign up for free. I encourage you to try it out. I love feedback, good, bad, and other. We're about 2 revs beyond almost what you see here just in a few weeks ago on some slides. We do offer the ability to do a bunch of online redemptions with our partners. We're actually implementing the real-time booking feature now. One of the things that's fascinating, back to my original example, most of our doctor's appointments, most of our engagements in this industry, you still have to call. Not only go up and show, but call, and it's all during 9 to 5 hours and crazy stuff like that. That's gonna shift and change, and we're gonna actually help sort of encourage that and drive those sort of outcomes. Email campaigns, a variety of different things. Target market around what we call healthy millennials and mom on the right. Mom is kind of very much in charge of most things. Platform, and with that, I will take some questions.
Thank you, that was amazing.